Xenoverse 3's potential is absolutely massive. The transition from Xenoverse 2 to the next iteration, judging from what I've seen from new gameplay drops to a brand new interview with game producer Masayuki Hirano, indicates that the evolution of the Xenoverse franchise going into Xenoverse 3 isn't just some moderate leap. Oh no. The new info we just got indicates that Dimps, in collaboration with Bandai Namco, are building a content-rich Dragon Ball player-centered experience that will feed us for generations. So finally, we got us some exclusive sweet gameplay, and from my perspective, it looks like more of a complete version of what I always envisioned a fleshed out Xenoverse experience, at least on the co-op side of things, to look like, because what we see here are multiple changes coming off Xenoverse 2. The gameplay area in this clip looks far more expansive this time around, like there's actual forward momentum, meaning a consistent gameplay loop which doesn't pigeonhole you in one area like the parallel quests and raid battles in previous Xenoverse games. Just think of it this way: Dragon Ball Z Sagas. Was it a Dookie adjacent Dragon Ball game? Affirmative. But the core idea of the cooperative aspect that was the foundation of the entire game was always a genius direction. You had a beginning, middle, and end that would ramp up in difficulty as you progress through the levels, and once you reach the pinnacle, you duke it out with a boss who jump in and whip out all sorts of new tricks which will force your squad to improvise and turn the tides of battle. That sort of thing will never, ever get old. It's the bedrock of what makes multiplayer-based action RPG MMO titles compelling as they are. Speaking of MMO, it seems to me that Xenoverse 3 is looking to double down on that aspect, with details such as damage number indicators smack dab in the middle of the screen, which might be considered a turn off for some people, but I don't know, bro. I think it's growing on me. Hopefully the developers provide options to toggle those indicators on or off, since that's a good middle ground for everyone. The way this entire gameplay showcase is structured really shows a deeper emphasis on the action RPG aspect the Xenoverse franchise is known for. The final minutes of the showcase, where DBS Broly shows up as the final boss of the mission, strongly gave me Dragon Ball Z Kakarot vibes, specifically from the large scale attacks and mobilizing to find cover behind large ice blocks. It's giving more dynamic boss phases, which requires the player to lock in, strategize, and stay quick on their feet. Now, this is just a preview of those special missions. I can only imagine these missions are only going to get crazier as you level up. I was one of the people literally dropping to my knees at a Walmart, begging Dimps to adopt a boss design philosophy similar to that of DBZ Kakarot, because it just objectively works in a multiplayer setting. The boss fight with Raditz comes to mind. Hell, basically every boss fight in the game became returnal at certain intervals. I'm praying and hoping to Yesu Cristo they double down on making the boss fights more dynamic and challenging, because Dragon Ball Kakarot was some weenie hunt general ass shit. There's a number of changes that are raising some eyebrows in the community, such as the removal of ki and stamina as separate resources, or rather they're condensing it into one single ability gauge, which to me, I think curtails a bit of the fluff and in an interesting way seemingly forces you to be more economical in how you're playing. And abilities are on a cooldown too, which is a choice, but a change I personally think might be based, because let's be honest here, the Xenoverse series is basically spam city. It's hard to tell how these changes impact gameplay, since what was showcased doesn't entirely represent Xenoverse 3's full potential, but of course people in the Dragon Ball games community are already assuming the full scale of what it offers and making these insanely dog shit comparisons on like one or two similar features from other less than mediocre Dragon Ball games. And it's funny because the comparisons aren't even necessarily inaccurate. It's the Brobdingnagian as leaps to conclusion of what those similarities even mean for the gameplay loop. Imagine saying Xenoverse 3, as we know it today, is just The Breakers 2. I actually wish unrelenting violence on someone who thinks like this. Why? What makes it like The Breakers? The soul change mechanic? Huh? Is that what it is? Be for real. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you think one single feature from another game being present in a new one equals game same, you're actually just a troglodyte. What kind of caveman ass logic is that? Look with your eyes and juxtapose the gameplay of The Breakers and Xenoverse 3 and tell me your brain isn't cooked. I will literally lobotomize you where you stand. Now, if you want to say it visually looks similar to The Breakers, you'd have a point, since it operates off the same in-house proprietary engine as the Xenoverse game. If anything, The Breakers looks like Xenoverse is the most true statement in this context, and not as much the other way around. The Breakers is essentially Xenoverse on Ozempic, stripped away from all of its unique parts to optimally appeal to the Dead by Daylight audience, which is fine. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot also gets brought up as a point of comparison, and besides maybe potentially how boss fights are designed in this game and the on-screen damage number indicators, I do not look at Xenoverse 3 gameplay and think, Kakarot. Kakarot's combat was more basic than a white woman named Valerie ordering a venti-sized latte at Starbucks. And this is coming from someone who truly enjoyed it from beginning to end. Not to mention, Xenoverse 3's gameplay, from the little showcases we've seen, is already orders of magnitude above anything Kakarot was able to muster on a basic level, except for maybe the cutscenes. The Xenoverse 3 is probably not going to beat Kakarot on cutscenes. What is true, however, is that both games would fall under the category of action RPGs. Perfectly accurate to say that Xenoverse 3 looks like it has certain aspects borrowed from other Dragon Ball games, games, but please, for the love of God, that surface level, schizophrenic, cursory ass, I am the fastest reader in the world.
I read a 1,679 pages book within 2 seconds.
Wow.
You did what? Wait,
analysis that dudes in the Dragon Ball games community brainlessly do need to be excommunicated immediately. I remember seeing certain people saying CACs weren't going to be playable to the point it became an actual concern. If you genuinely thought arguably the most important feature in a Xenoverse game wasn't going to be present, brother, you need to remove yourself from this space, this area, completely. People have gotten their hands on time 15-minute demos on Xenoverse 3 and the reception is, I want to say, mixed. A common opinion is that it doesn't feel like Xenoverse 2, and some critics even say that like it's a bad thing, as if they'd be humming praises if the gameplay was identical to Xenoverse 2. It's been a decade. Change was always going to be inevitable. The big question is how these changes play out in the final product, like time transformation. At first, I put my 2 hands on my head, writhing in pain over this change, but then when I sat down and thought about it for more than 2 seconds, I figured after seeing the big ass buff a mere Super Saiyan transformation gave the player, my opinion on it became a bit more nuanced. Because just imagine what these actually meaningful buffs mean for stronger transformations like Super Saiyan Blue or Ultra Instinct along down the line as you level up your CAC. Is there going to be a mastery system where you'd be able to not just increase the duration of your transformation, but also acquire new base combat abilities and or buffs associated with said transformation? Or will it just increase naturally as you progress throughout your Saiya squad journey? People hate on Soul Change now, but the way it was marketed probably indicates that it's not just going to be some throwaway option, but deeply woven into the fabric of the game. A mentor system is already established in the franchise. This Soul Change mechanic is probably Bandai's way of saying that they're going to be building upon this feature in a big way. Yeah, we're talking overhauls, Poppy. I don't think people understand the absolute potential Xenoverse 3 has. The recent interview with Masayuki Hirano about Xenoverse 3 spells this out pretty clearly. Now, it's important to keep expectations reasonable, but what bro is saying makes a nigga wanna cream, I'm not gonna lie. Massive pool of co-op and competitive missions, crossplay, highly specific brutal challenges for advanced play, expanded social features. Nah, they're cooking.